Robyn and Barbara are joining us from Cairns today, and it's my pleasure to hand over to them now. So thank you, Robyn and Barbara.
Hello, and well, it's certainly an interesting opportunity for us to talk to you a little bit about our disquiet and the concerns that we have about our work. So my name's Robyn Glade-Wright, and I'm an associate professor at James Cook University, where I teach art. And of course, I think making art is one of the most exciting things that you can do in the world, and I encourage you all to engage in this sort of endeavour. So I'll hand over now to Barbara, who can introduce herself.
Thanks, Robyn. And thank you, Bronte, and all the Umbrella team for setting this up. It's a great opportunity, as Robyn said, for us to talk about our work and the lovely exhibition at Umbrella now showing. I believe Bronte's going to set a video walkthrough of the exhibition so that we might get a whole scan of the show as it is in Umbrella. So if that's ready to go, that would be wonderful. We're starting off with Robyn's beautiful choke necklaces, beautiful but disturbing choke necklaces. So if Bronte wants to start that video, that would be wonderful. Thanks.
Just taking a moment to get that one queued up. Apologies, everyone. I'll just try again. If you wanted to continue on, Barbara, I'll see what's happening.
Okay. Robyn, would you like to say something about your choke necklaces, perhaps?
Of course. So, Bronte, would you like me to just run through some slides at this point in time?
Perhaps we can start with the slides for a moment while I get this sorted out. Yes, thanks, Robyn.
No problem. Okay. So let's see, I'm going to share content here, and I'm going to go to my slides, and I'm going to play from start. Oh, it's wonderful when some of these technologies work. So yes, as Barbara said, thank you so much to the wonderful team at Umbrella. It's been absolutely delightful working with the team there, and this was the beautiful invitation that they created for our show. So the title of the show, Disquiet, Ecological Anxieties and Transformations, really speaks to the sorts of ways that Barbara and I feel uncomfortable about what's happening in the world and how the plants and animals we share the planet with are being impacted. Indeed, as well as the plants and animals, of course, we're being impacted. So one of the pieces, Overconsumption, is a boat that I attempted to make out of paper mache, and I placed it on top of a coral reef, a dead coral reef, which is made from materials in the garden. So it's really exciting in contemporary art. We can make art from things that are not traditional materials. We have a broad scope. So in this piece, we've got this idea that when we consume a lot, we obviously use a lot of the Earth's resources for the materials and the energy and the transport. And I guess it's important for us to realise that some of that is impacting things like the coral reef. This piece is called Coast, and Barbara and I have used a lot of washed up debris from the sea in our work. It's a terrible thing to realise that by 2050, the weight of plastic in the sea will outweigh the weight of marine creatures. Now, a terrible idea, and there are 330 lighters in this piece, and they were collected by a coastal cleanup group, Kangaroa Blue. They've been washed up on far north Queensland, and I've used them here in this map to suggest that our beautiful beaches are now wastelands and that we're surrounded by all this trash. As Barbara was saying, these chokes are really quite disturbing pieces. There are many floats that were used in the fishing industry and other pieces of plastic debris and rope that I've constructed into these choke necklaces. So we're choking the animals and the marine creatures and the birds and ourselves with all this rubbish. All of these materials were washed up on far North Queensland beaches, as were these. So we've got pearls from the pearling industry in the piece Disquiet. So there are 13 blue balls that I painted blue and asked questions. Is it too late? You know, can we change? And I guess part of what we have to do is to change. We have to make sure that we only use plastics that are recyclable, and we have to collect and deal with all the plastic that's in the environment. We know that plastic can take 1,000 years to break up. It doesn't actually disintegrate, it just breaks up into smaller pieces, microplastics, which unfortunately find their way into marine life and subsequently into our food. The piece Red Tide over here is references the enormous and crippling red tide, a poison toxic tide that impacted Chile and Argentina coast in 2016 and killed hundreds and thousands of fish and dolphins and whales, and impacted the people in the fishing industry in those regions. Because of the rising water temperatures, these sorts of catastrophic events are predicted to increase in intensity. Now, Lambton soup is a little bit following this idea of the microplastics in the sea. Here I've quoted Andy Warhol's 1962 candle soup, but in each of these pieces I've suggested the number of microplastics that are contained in each can. I guess this piece is saying that our food is now contaminated, and we know that we're eating a plastic credit card of plastic each week. I think this is my final slide, and here I've got plastic time. So it's almost as if we're being inundated with plastic, and our life on planet, the things that people have done, are just increasing this plastic. And the piece dump suggests that illegal dumping is still going on. It's a horrible idea to think people are discarding their waste in the sea, where we're really impacting that environment and impacting the creatures that live in it, and ultimately ourselves. Okay, I think that's my last slide, so I'll stop screen sharing. There we go.
So will I carry on from there? Thanks, Robyn. If I can be as clever as you and share my slides as well. Okay. And I'm hoping that's up there. I've started off with a work that I've made with squid hooks, also, as Robyn mentioned, from the beaches of far North Queensland, particularly Cape York Peninsula, collected by Tongariro Blue Foundation. This work is a chandelier made from, I didn't actually count the number of squid hooks, but as you can see, it's quite a large work, 1.6 metres in length, so there's a lot of squid hooks. And it's really a response to the kind of plastic waste that the fishing industry discards. These squid hooks floated down, as we were told, on the currents onto the Cape York, and it indicates that fishing's carried out on quite an industrial scale, and this kind of fishing goes on without us really seeing it. It's out of sight and out of our mind. So we just get to see the end products, which is squid, calamari, if you like. So this work alludes to throwing a light on both what goes on in the deep ocean and on to the effect that discarded plastic material has on the marine environment. So here's a close-up. I was quite beguiled when Robyn first handed me a squid hook in some plastic rubbish she had, and she said, "This looks like this might be interest you," knowing my interest in animals, working on artworks with animals. And I'd never seen one before, so I was actually shocked by the I don't know, the barbarity of it, I suppose. It is such a lethal looking thing, but at the same time it's quite beautiful. I look closely at these hooks and you can see that they've actually been covered with this polyester, brightly coloured polyester, and a white material. And I guess these colours attract the squid particularly. And I had to obviously clean them up because they'd come down on the currents and collected all sorts of seaweed and wood and other material. So I foolishly kind of thought I could make something large, and it was quite a challenge to make. This object artwork called Decoy is also made of squid hooks, and these I guess show the end of the hooks more particularly, and these are have also discarded the coloured fabric, so which I guess has continued floating around in the sea. This indicates I guess a pain and suffering to me of the sea animals who have been entangled in these hooks, because it clearly shows the hooks, and these barbs are the target of these animals, but they've been discarded. In this work there's also a sense that I wanted to make it attractive and alluding to the beauty of marine life. The rounded dome shape is sort of suggestive of corals or sea urchins, and is a reminder that some sort of exquisiteness that we don't see is hidden in our deep waters. But this kind of beauty evaporates for me quickly because I just see the end of the hooks that are brought into focus. Interestingly enough, I discovered that these hooks are made of a fluorescent kind of material that's in the plastic of the object, and I only discovered this when I switched off the lights of my studio and came back the next day and it was glowing. And our very clever photographer up here, Mikhail Marzik, I'm not quite exactly sure how he did it, but was able to take a photograph of the decoy in the dark, and it shows how it actually glows, and it must glow like this underwater. And you can see the little end points, a little of the hooks are a little bit brighter, and some are missing, so they're damaged. But that was a kind of interesting thing to discover. This work in the centre is a video on kind of like a raft of plastic floats that were once used in fishing nets and had been floating around in the sea. Again, as Robyn's plastic works were washed up on the beaches, and on the video is made of turtles which you can't really see very well here, but they're swimming around in the ocean, mainly the Great Barrier Reef. They're hawksbill turtles, and unfortunately these turtles are the largest source of so-called tortoiseshell, which is used for combs, brushes and jewellery, and they're a commercially caught for their shells. But these turtles swim in our Great Barrier Reef, and there's something very graceful and beautiful about how they glide in the water, in the ocean, and go about their lives, eating and swimming around. But however, their fate is often determined by us as they become entangled in nets and floats, and they also eat plastics. So it's really a reference to, I suppose, our discarding plastic and its impact upon the marine life. These works also mostly plastics. The first one are plastic tuna tags. They've got numbers on them, and apparently they tie them around the tuna that are caught, so that, again, it alludes to the industrial scale of the tonnage of fishing that the fishing industry deals with, that they have to number the animals that are caught. The domes, to me, are suggestive of museum pieces, and we might in the future just be looking at our animals that have become extinct. And it also indicates a kind of a Pleistocene era, so-called, that creatures are starting to be compose themselves of human waste as the microplastics enter the food chain, and habitats are changed by our plastic waste. Again, this is a work about the plastic in the ocean, its ocean mix, and it's 26 glasses with small pieces of plastic in the glasses, and this plastic is termed as what is it called? Smog, underwater smog, sorry, and forgot there for a minute. And it's called this because it floats around under the surface of the water in clouds, clumps looking like clouds or smog, and it's plastic that has broken up into small and ever smaller bits, and it's often called microplastic, and when it gets small, nanoplastic. And unfortunately, this plastic is often mistaken for food by fish and turtles who consume it. And we were told by the people who collect such tiny bits of plastic from the beach that the marine animals are very attracted to the red plastic, so they find less red microplastic. So as Robyn indicated in her Lambton soup, we also unwittingly consume plastic in our food and drink. So this I guess shows in reality what these tiny little bits of plastic look like, because these were also once on the beaches of far north Queensland. So the problem with plastic pollution was predicted some 50 years ago by scientists, when they said it was unlikely that any marine birds will remain uncontaminated by synthetic pollution. And today we find out, and research has told us, that 90% of marine bird species have ingested plastic. And microplastics have been found in around 600 species of marine life, including 100% of turtles. The turtles on the wall behind the chandelier I've called them hatchlings, and these are actually comprised of hard hats with that have also been amazingly floating around in the ocean, and it refers to that worrying statistic that I've just quoted about microplastics being found in 100% of turtles. And it's also concerned me that turtles are born into this plastic polluted world, and they can often die a slow, painful death as after they ingest plastic waste. So these small marine creatures really don't get a chance to survive from the day they're born. There's a closer view of them, and you can see the various sorts of plastic pieces that are also being collected from the ocean. And these works, I guess I just could have kept on making them. I think there were 14 or 15 in the end, but this kind of plastic just seems endless. So I think that's the end of my slides. Thank you very much. So really, just to say that Robyn and I have found research that shows that countries around the world are struggling to cope with the current quantities of plastic waste. And just recently, CSIRO have told us that the quantities of plastic waste and plastic waste production is outpacing our ability to manage it. And in addition to the large amounts that the petrochemical industry is investing, which leads to an acceleration of new plastic production. But our exhibition represents, I suppose, our concerns, and it's our way of inviting a discussion about marine plastic pollution, and I guess it's our way of saying that we have a chance to take action and transform what we're doing. So that's about it, unless you have anything to add at this stage, Robyn.
Well, over to Bronte questions, but Barbara, I'm intending to do more work. Maybe you'll stop there, Barbara. I think echo. I think Barbara's microphone's muted now. Let's see. So let's see, the stop sharing button's near the leave at the top on the right-hand side. And Barbara, your microphone's next to it, so you might need to turn your microphone back on. And here we have the walk around. Actually, the piece that's just going out of screen is made of compressed plastic. So geologists have described a new kind of sedimentary material called plastic, made from plastic, where plastic is compressed, which is outrageous.
So Barbara and Robyn, I might just leave this walkthrough playing while we take a look at the Q&A. So I've got a question from Ben. Ben would like to know if you're working on any new pieces at the moment and if you have collaborated on any of the artworks.
Well, yes, we have collaborated. Barbara is an incredibly talented drawer, and when I drew the red, the salmon on the red tide, Barbara was incredibly kind to come and help with that process of making the fish appear to be dead. Strangely, we collaborate by going to Tangaroa Blue and buying materials. But as Barbara mentioned, we often swap materials, or I noticed that Barbara would be incredibly upset about those squid hooks. So sometimes we kind of know each other's work. However, it's curious that we come up with incredibly different work, even though the aim is very similar. In relation to are we working on new work, at the moment I'm becoming very concerned about mercury in the environment and how mercury in the sea is coming into people's DNA, and I'm making a piece around that sort of concept, and some large mercury-looking dead marine creatures. I do wish I would make smaller work because it's easy to transport, etc., but seems like I keep on making bigger things. Over to Barbara.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Thanks, Robyn. Yes, it's great to be able to work with somebody and share ideas and take trips out to collect our plastic waste and share our concerns. So that's been a wonderful thing. There we have, just on the screen there at the video, my plastic ocean mix, which sits on a Perspex shelf, and there's Robyn's wonderful Lambton's soup with the horrific details. So those works were beautifully placed as they relate to one another. There's Decoy, which is sitting nicely on that plinth, and Robyn's Red Tide.
They're the salmon that you helped me with. And Barbara, your new works, what new works are you making?
Well, both Robyn and I have been working on some new work for a sculpture and multimedia festival at Port Douglas called Call of the Running Tide. And my studio is full of plastic at the moment as I'm preparing some work. So yes, the work continues, and there's also a show from that Call of the Running Tide, some new work and work from 1 year ago at Northside currently. If you go on their site, it's just opened now, and Robyn and I have pieces in that.
I can see another question here from Ricky, and Ricky asks, Ricky, who's a Calcutta artist. Oh, now his question's gone away. I wonder why that happened. If we had, sorry, Bronte.
Sorry, a little glitch there. So Ricky, I've still got it here. Ricky would like to say that it's nice to be aware of the issues of plastic in the environment. However, he wants to know if the artists have any optimism for the future.
Well, look, I think that things are becoming so problematic that we don't actually have a choice. You know, if we find that we can't eat food because it is contaminated, and if we find that these plastics are crossing the blood-brain barrier and the placenta and impacting our children and our future children, I think that it's becoming so tough and so rough that people are going to have to make choices. And, you know, I think that there are times we have seen with the way fluorocarbons were taken out of the world, you know, we do need everybody, all nations to work, and all people to work together to make a change. So I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful.
Yes, even though I've said that plastic waste production's outpacing our ability to manage it, I'm very optimistic when I see so many clever people and brilliant young people coming up with solutions. We had a young girl, aged 10 or 11 here, started an anti-straw campaign, anti-plastic straw campaign, and she was enormously successful, and our restaurants got rid of, and cafes got rid of their plastic straws. So I think the actions of just one individual can do tremendous good. So I am optimistic when I see human ingenuity and passion working to come up with solutions to stop plastic waste. Yes.
But we have a question here. Could we both talk about how we went about touring this exhibition? And I guess that this is a really good question because it's complicated, I guess, to be an artist in the community and to make work and to be able to exhibit it. And I think that part of the answer is encouraging everybody to keep on making art and showing it more or less wherever you can. For example, you might find that there are opportunities in public buildings where you can ask people if you can exhibit a small exhibition of work. And this is a slightly long answer, but the answer is that both Barbara and I have been having various shows, and we started with a show at the Cairns Institute at James Cook University, and we received feedback to suggest that we should tour it. We then applied for a grant, and that's a complicated process and a hard process, but you know, you have to be in it to win it. And we were very fortunate to receive funding from a Playing Queensland grant by Arts Queensland, and that enabled us to pay for the freight and the crates and the capacity to travel to different galleries. And so, yes, the exhibition is travelling now to 4 galleries. But I just want to say that you too can have a touring show. You just have to keep on keeping on and don't stop. Barbara?
Yes, I think when you live in a place like Cairns, far north Queensland, you feel a tiny bit remote from the capital centres, and touring and putting the work in for touring an exhibition connects you with more people, and often I think it's a way to get your artwork out into the community a little bit more. So as Robyn said, we thought that it was a worthwhile venture to take our work to different galleries, and particularly those galleries along our eastern coast that are facing, whose communities are facing the same issues as Cairns. That's the problem of ocean, marine plastic pollution. And are there any more questions?
No, I think that we're done, and I think we're probably coming close to time. So, Bronte, is there anything you would like us to?
No, I think we will probably finish up there. Thank you so much, and thank you to everyone who did put some questions into our Q&A today. Thanks very much for joining us online for our first sort of digital artists talk. Robyn and Barbara, it's been great to have you today.
Thank you once again from us both to Umbrella, and I think everybody can see through that walkthrough how much effort had been given to the show, and we're really, really grateful that we've had the show at Umbrella. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Bronte, Daniel and Kate and team. Thank you.
Thanks so much. I'll finish up that presentation now.
Thank you.